clean, clear, not cracked, properly mounted and secure. So we did the blinks and leans, 5 clearance lights, and headlights. So there's 1, 2, 3. And then the multifunction light is 4 reflectors. Then we'll go under the hood after we talk about that. So now we'll open the hood. I know how to open the hood. You pull this back right here.
Okay.
And then put your finger in here and flip this little bar from under.
Okay.
You do the other side of it. Points of contact. Let's start on this side. This side we want to talk about general hoses. Y'all see general hoses on there?
Yeah, general hoses.
See it? These are the general hoses. So what can we say about the general hoses? Has no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. Connection points, not missing any nuts, bolts, or screws. Not bent, broke, or cracked. It's not leaking, and it's properly mounted and secure. Next, we'll talk about the AC compressor. This is the AC
This
compressor.
compressor, yeah.
It's not missing nuts, bolts, or screws. Not bent, broke, or cracked.
It's one water pump.
We got to get to that. That's on the other side.
Oh, this under?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're on AC compressor,
compressor.
and then we're gonna come back to that.
Okay, cool.
Sometimes it might be out of order the way they have it. So AC compressor,
AC compressor.
not missing nuts, bolts, or screws, not bent, broke, or cracked. It's not leaking. It's properly mounted and secure, and it's belt driven. This is the belt. Shouldn't have no more than 3/4 inches of play.
Okay.
It's not cut, frayed, or torn. This is the alternator.
Alternator. Okay.
You see it?
Yeah.
Alternator is belt driven also. It's not missing nuts, bolts, or screws, not bent, broke, or cracked. It's properly mounted and secure, and it also shouldn't have no more than 3/4 inches of play. It's also not, the belt is not cut, frayed, or torn.
Okay.
All right, that's it for this side. We got 1, 2,
2,
3,
3,
and then the belt is 4.
4.
All right, then we go to the other side. This side we start with the coolant reservoir with cap.
Okay.
You see it on there? Coolant reservoir.
Yeah.
Coolant reservoir with cap. Since it's got fluid in it, what can we say about the fluid? If we go to the
So
top,
it's
it's
not leaking.
not leaking.
Yeah.
And then it's filled to the
filled
proper,
to the proper level.
not missing nuts, bolts, or screws. It's properly mounted and secure. See how the sentence work with
Yeah.
each part? All right, then we go to the oil dipstick. Oil dipstick on there? Okay. Oil dipstick
At the oil level.
is not leaking, not missing nuts, bolts, or
So
screws.
do you do it by physically too and to take it off and put it back or no?
You just pull it out like
no,
this.
no. The tester, does he ask to do it or no?
No.
Okay, that's
just
cool.
demonstrate like this and then just
Okay.
push it back in here.
Okay.
Not missing nuts, bolts, or screws. It's properly mounted and secure. This is the water pump.
Water pump. Oh, that's a water pump.
Water pump, not missing nuts, bolts, or screws, not bent, broke, or cracked. It's not leaking. It's properly mounted and secure, and it's belt driven. The belt, you gotta say, it has no more than 3/4 inches of play, and it's not cut, frayed, or torn. All right, this is the power steering reservoir with cap. And everything that's got a cap on it, you gotta say with cap.
Yeah.
Does it say it on a power steering reservoir with cap? There it is. It's not leaking. It's filled to the proper level. Not missing nuts, bolts, or screws. It's properly mounted and secure. The hoses has no abrasions, bulges, or cuts at the tips. Not missing nuts, bolts, or screws. It's properly mounted and secure. This is the power steering pump. So the way you find a power steering pump, you follow this hose right here,
Yeah.
and it sits right inside the frame right here. See it? Power steering pump is gear driven. It's not missing nuts, bolts, or screws, not bent, broke, or cracked. It's not leaking, properly mounted and secure. Then we got the air compressor. We point in that area also. Air compressor. Not missing any nuts, bolts, or screws. Not bent, broke, or cracked. It's also gear driven. All right. This right here is the upper steering linkage. Shouldn't have no more than 10 degrees or 2 inches of play. Not missing nuts, bolts, or screws. Not bent, broke, or cracked. It's properly mounted and secure. This is the gearbox. So the gearbox. Gearbox. That's covered. The gearbox is on there somewhere.
Yeah. It's a gear driven.
Gearbox, not missing nuts, bolts, or screws, not bent, broke, or cracked. It's not leaking, properly mounted and secure. The lower steering linkage. The lower steering linkage is the pitman arm, drag link, steering knuckle, tie rod.
Which
That's
one's
at
the
the
tie rod? Oh, the wheel?
This the
Oh,
tie
that's
rod.
the tie rod, okay.
This the steering knuckle. This the drag link. This the pitman arm.
Okay, the pitman.
So all of that is the lower steering linkage. Pitman arm, drag link, steering knuckle, tie rod. And all of them held together by a calcer nut and a cotter pin.
Okay.
They're not bent, broke, or cracked, not missing nuts, bolts, or screws, and they're properly mounted and secure. Now, we want to talk about the suspension. The suspension is 5 parts to the suspension. All right, let's look at the suspension. Let's see. Brake. This is suspension right here. So the 5 parts of the suspension, we got the leaf springs, spring mounts, U-bolt, shock absorber, airbags.
Airbags, okay.
So this is the leaf springs. That's this right here. Leaf springs. Leaf springs are not scissoring or has not shifted, not missing nuts, bolts, or screws, not bent, broke, or cracked. It's properly mounted and secure. This is the U-bolt.
The U-bolt?
U-bolt.
Okay, U-bolt.
U-bolt.
Yeah.
Not bent, broke, or cracked, not missing nuts, bolts, or screws. It's properly mounted and secure.
So there's 5 parts, right?
5 parts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This area right here
Oh, the suspension unit.
for the suspension.
Yeah.
So leaf springs, U-bolt, spring mount. Got front and back spring mount. Shouldn't have no missing or damaged bushings. Not missing nuts, bolts, or screws. They're properly mounted and secure. Also, you got the shock. That's part of the
So
suspension.
that's a shock. Okay.
This is a shock absorber.
Okay.
It's properly mounted and secured to the truck frame.
Okay.
So,
Which one is?
so the front is the only section that doesn't have an airbag. So you got to tell the examiner the front doesn't have an airbag. The rest have all 5 from the back all the way to the back. Only up here 4. All right, then it's 5 parts to the brakes. The brakes right here.
Brake hoses.
Got the brake hoses, brake chamber, slack adjusting push rod,
Brake drum.
brake drum, and brake lining.
Uh-huh.
This is brake hoses.
Brake hoses.
Not missing nuts, bolts, or screws. Not bent, broke, or cracked. It's properly mounted and secure. This is the brake chamber. Not bent, broke, or cracked. Not missing nuts, bolts, or screws. See how I keep repeating that same sentence?
Yeah, right.
This is slack adjusting push rod.
Slack adjuster.
This is a brake drum inside the tire.
Inside the tire.
Okay.
And then the brake lining is inside the brake drum.
Okay.
Got it?
Brake drum.
Now, one more thing. It's 5 parts to the tire.
To the tire.
Rim, tires.
The rim, tires, valve stem, lug nuts, hub or axle seal.
This is only in tire, okay.
So this is the tire.
Okay.
We all know where the tire at. This is the rim.
Rim.
These are the lug nuts. This is a hub or axle seal. And this is the valve stem with cap.
Okay. Yeah.
See how I break it down? Boom, we finished. That's A.
Wow.
Got it?
Are we done with that one?
We done. That was A.